In this video, we'll be discussing about how the components communicate in React. So how different types of components communicate between them and how you can exchange the data between them and how can propagate events from one component to the another component. Like, so we can broadly classify all of the communication into three main types. Okay. So the first one is parent to child. So parent to child communication, right? So the first way of communicating or first communication which is needed is how you communicate between parent and child. And second thing is child to parent, right? So child to parent, how do you want to communicate from child to parent? And the last way of communicating is child to child. So these are the different. So basically it is called as siblings. So in your entire React application, you can find the relation between any two components among these only. So it can be either a parent to child communication or child to parent communication or child to child. Okay, a child to child, it means the siblings, it means they are sharing the same parent. So this is one of the important thing which you need to understand, and to understand all of this you need to have a good grip on understanding the events in React and understanding the state, understanding the props, everything, right? So how do you want to communicate? Because you come across many situations while building your application where you have to pass data from one component to the another component, right? So getting a good grip on all of this is very, very important. Okay, so let me demonstrate each of these, how you can interact with child to parent and parent to child and child to child, right? So let me take an example and demonstrate to you, right? So the first communication is very simple. You communicate by sending the props. So parent to child, how do you do that? You just pass the props, right? Whenever you are rendering the child, you pass the props. So this is very simple, passing the props from parent to child. And child to parent, we'll see how we can do that. And third thing is a combination of child to parent, and in the second phase it is divided into two phases, and parent to child. Okay, so basically child 1 to child 2 communication can be divided into child 1 to parent and parent to child. So if you understand 1 and 2 clearly, then understanding the third one is very simple, or implementing the third one is very simple. Okay, so let's take a use case and understand how you can communicate the data between these three, right? So for that, I'll have one main component which is the parent component, okay, and I'll have two child components. So it will be constant child 1, okay, constant child 1, and second child constant child 2. Okay, so you have two components now. So parent component is going to be the main component. So I'll render both childs. Okay, so I'll render both childs inside the parent. So it becomes the main component becomes the parent one. Okay, let me return some JSX initially, right? So I'm returning an empty tag, right? Yeah. So to understand this situation very well, so what I have come up is, right? So this component will have a state. Okay, so this component will have a state called as names. So names of superheroes. Okay, and set superheroes, right? So use state, I'm using the use state hook. Okay, I'm using the use state hook and I'm passing the names as Spider-Man. So I'm technically not interested how many number of names I have. Iron Man, Ant-Man, and Captain America, right? So what I'll be doing is child one will render the list. Okay, child one will render the list of the superheroes. Okay, so in first thing is I'm passing the data, I mean the state of my parent component to the child component, that is child one, as a prop. Okay, and the child one has a button. Okay, so first let me implement the child one. So child one, it first renders the list. Okay, so it first renders the list, which is receiving as props. Okay, so props dot heroes dot map. Okay, element, and I'm rendering the hero. So basically I can call him as hero, right? So first communication is parent to child. So parent, my main component, is interacting with the child component, and how am I doing that? By passing the props, right? That is superheroes. Okay, I'm omitting this set superheroes because I'm not technically using it. So this is the first way of communication. So let me mention what is what. H parent, and this is child one. This is child one, and this is going to be child 2, right? So if I look at my UI right now, so parent, child 1 and child 2. So the first communication, parent to child communication, happened by passing the props. So I passed the data of the state of parent component to the child 2 by props, right? Now I need the second type of communication, right? So I need the second type of communication. For that, first let me implement the third child 2 component as well. So here I am setting up, and I am selecting, or I am creating a new state variable that is called as selected hero, and set selected hero. So by default, this will be Iron Man. Okay, so somebody will change the selected hero, and we'll see who is that, right? So selected hero. So child 2 basically displays. So here we are sending child 2 also this prop, that is selected hero. So both child 1 and child 2 are getting the data from the parent. So parent to child communication is possible in this scenario. So child 2 basically does nothing. It says selected hero props, and it says props dot selected hero is my favorite. That's it. So now what is doing is, from parent to child 1 we pass the list, and for child 2 we passed the selected hero. Okay, so now we need to understand how you can communicate the child to parent communication. Okay, so for that, let me explain what you need to do, right? So first you define a function in the parent. Okay, first step, you define a function in the parent, you pass the function reference to the child as the prop. Okay, So first you define a function, in the parent, and you pass the function reference. You pass the function reference to the child as a prop. So you are passing the function to the child as a prop, okay? And you call the function slash you execute the function in the child when the event occurs. Okay, so let me ease down, or let me simplify these statements. So what are we trying to do? Child to parent communication. Child to parent communication. So what does it mean? When something happens in the child, you notify the parent if the parent is interested. So let's say child is doing something. There is an event occurring in the child and parent is interested in that event. That's when the scenario comes, that child to parent communication. So when some event happens in the child, you notify the parent if and only if that parent is interested in that event. Since the parent is interested in that event, what we have to do is, right, you define a function in the parent which changes the state. So basically what happens, whenever there is an event happening in your application, you basically change the state of the application. So now, but what is the condition or the trick here? When an event of child is occurred, you are changing the state of parent. This is the exact requirement. So when I say child to parent communication, what I meant is when an event occurs in the child, you need to change the state of parent. For that, the step one is you define a function which changes the state in parent. Okay, so you are just defining the function which changes the state in the parent. Second step, you are passing the function reference. So whatever function you have defined in the step one, you are passing that function reference to the child as the prop. Okay, you are passing the function reference as the prop, but you are not calling that function anywhere in your parent. Okay, as a third step, you call the function or you execute the function in the child when the event occurs. So let's say when somebody is clicking a button in the child, you should notify the parent, so that parent data needs to be modified a little. Okay, so you execute the function by using the reference which has been passed in the props. So what technically is happening? The function is in the parent, but the function execution or the function call is being triggered from the child. So that's how you are modifying or you are changing the parent state and you are communicating the child to parent, right? So let me implement what I have just said, right? So my implementation is that, okay, whenever a button is clicked, okay, so whenever a button is clicked, I need to sort the array. Okay, I need to sort the array. And another button is clicked. When the other button is clicked, I need to reset the array back to its normal position. Okay, so these are the two cases, right? So first, the superheroes, it should go back to the normal condition, and second, it should sort the array. So I'll have two buttons, reset, and other I have sort. So what is happening now? When the event in the child 1 occurs, I am modifying the state of my parent. That is what I am trying to do. Okay, let me repeat again. When the event in the child 1 occurs, I am modifying the state of my parent and this is what I am calling as child to parent communication. So how will I do that? For that, first I need to define the function. I need to define the function in my parent, that is sort heroes, sort superheroes is equal to constant sort superheroes is equal to, what it does, it sorts the array basically. So I need the set superheroes, right? I need the set superheroes, and what does this set superheroes do over here? This sorts the superheroes. That's it. Superheroes dot sort. Okay. Now I am passing this function reference. I am passing this function reference to my child component, which is my second step. Sort superheroes. Okay. So now when somebody is clicking this button, I need to call this function, which I have received in the props. Third step is props dot sort superheroes. Props dot sort superheroes. So what I have done, I have defined the function. In the parent component. I passed that function reference. I am just passing that function reference to my child component in the form of props. Now, when the event in the child occurs, I am calling that function. So what technically is happening? Though the function body is present in the parent, the function execution or the function trigger is happening from the child. That's why it is called as child to parent communication. Similarly, I'll define another function, that is reset superheroes. Okay. Here I'll set the superheroes. Back to the original state. Right? So again, I'll pass the function reference. To my child 1, and on the on click of this, I will call the function props dot reset superheroes. So if I now go to my UI, right? So see, I am seeing the Spider-Man, the unsorted array, right? I am clicking on the sort. Okay, something is wrong. Let's see what is wrong. Props dot sort superheroes, reset dot superheroes. Yes. Correct. So I have this array with me, right? So basically what we are trying to do is that we are sorting the arrays on the button click sort, and we are resetting the array, right? So but when I click on the sort, it is not sorting, right? And when I click on the reset, it is not even resetting because it is already in the reset condition. What is technically happening here? So for this, we need to understand one more important concept of how set state works, right? So here, when you do the superheroes.sort, what it does is actually it mutates the array. So the reference of the array is not changing, but the content inside the array is changing. So superheroes.sort function is a mutating array, is a mutating function. So when you pass the same reference with the data change to the superheroes, it won't update. It won't update the state. It cannot differentiate because arrays have only one pointer reference. As long as you are giving the same pointer reference to the set state or set superheroes, it won't change the state or it will not render the function, right? Hence, we need to pass every time the new reference. So after sorting, what I'll do is I'll create a new array and I'm spreading the current array which is sorted condition, right? So now if I go to my UI and click on the sort, so see, now it is sorted. So this is one more important thing which you need to remember, that when you want to set the superheroes, you cannot mutate the data while you are changing the state. But by default, sort is a function which mutates the array. Hence, you are changed its behavior by creating a new array, and spreading all the elements. Now you can see sort, reset, sort and reset. Both of these are working as expected. So when the event occurs in the child, you are communicating that event to the parent and changing the state of the parent. Child to parent communication. Okay. Now the second one, child to child communication, right? So for this, what is the trick? So whenever some event happens on the child 1, you need to change the data inside the child 2 or the other way around, whatever it is, right? So when the child 1, whenever there is an event occurring on the child 1, you change the data in the child 2. That is props.selectedHero, right? So let me do that. So what I'll do is I'll attach an event handler on each list element. Okay. So whenever a list element is clicked, I'll change the selected hero. So now what is happening? There is an event occurring in the child 1. I'll change the data in the parent, and that data is passed to the child 2. So see, in the child to child communication, from child 1 to child 2 communication, what I'll do is first I'll implement the child 1 to parent. Okay. Then I'll implement parent to child 2. And how can I do that? So first, for the child 1 to parent, what you do? You copy all of this. You just replicate these things. You define a function which changes the state in the parent. You pass the function reference to the child as prop. You call the function or execute the function in the child when the event occurs, right? So first let's implement this. So what I am trying to do here is whenever somebody is clicking on an superhero, that superhero should be passed to the child 2. So this is called as child 1 to child 2 communication. How can I do that? So I'm attaching an on-click event handler. Okay, on-click event handler. So here, what I'll do is I will have to send this information to my parent. Okay, so for that, child 1 to parent communication, for that I am defining a function set change selected hero. Okay, change selected hero, right? And what is this doing? It is taking the argument. I'm sending an argument and I'm setting the selected hero to the argument which is sent from the child 1. And now I'll pass the change selected hero or reference to the child 1. So yeah, so now the first step is child 1 to the parent. So for that I have defined a function inside my parent and I passed that reference. I passed the reference to my child 1, and on each list element I am attaching a event handler on click, and when that is clicked, what I am doing, props dot change selected hero, and I am passing the hero name. So on the every iteration I'll get the hero name, and I'm assigning an on click event handler to each list element. So it will have finally 4 list elements and 4 on click events on each list element, right? So see, now Ant-Man is my favorite, Captain America is my favorite, Iron Man is my favorite, Spider-Man is my favorite. So what I just implemented is communication from child 1 to child 2, right? So how is this happened? This happened because first I wanted to communicate from child 1 to parent, child 1 to parent. For that, what I have done is I have created a function in my parent, and I passed that function reference to the child 1, right? So this is the case, child 1 to parent, you define the function. So when I have attached a on click event handler on each of the list element, and when each of the list element is clicked, I am changing the selected hero. Okay, I'm changing the selected hero. So child 1 to parent communication is done. Now I have to implement the parent to child 2. So the data inside the parent has been changed. Now I am passing that data as prop, because parent to child, right? I am passing that data as prop to my child 2. So I am accessing that in the form of props. Now what technically happened, an event occurred on the child 1 and it changed the data in the parent, and since the data is changed, React re-renders all of the child elements, and hence child 2 will get the updated data, and hence the name is getting changed. So see, sort, and I'm clicking on Ant-Man, it is getting changed. So if you look at the browser console as well, right? So see, yeah. So see, only the name is getting re-rendered. So React intelligently determines what is changed from previous render to the current render, and it updates only that particular value. So see, so in this we have seen total 3 types of communications, that is parent to child, where we have achieved that by directly passing the props, and the second way of communication is child to parent, which is a bit tricky one, where we need to define a function which changes the state in the parent. You pass the function reference to the child as prop, and you call the function or execute the function in the child when the event occurs. So child to parent communication is possible in this way, and child to child or the siblings communication can be happen with the help of both case 1 and case 2, where first you communicate between child 1 to parent, and then you communicate from parent to child using the props. So these are the different types of communications which you need to keep in mind, so that whenever some use case comes in your application where you have to pass data between components, and this is also one of the favorite interview questions for all of the people, that how do you interact or how do you pass data between components, because this is the most fundamental concept every React developer should know, and this involves a lot of concepts of actual React, like state, props, and event handling, and event delegation, and everything, right? So hence communication between components is very, very important, and you need to be very clear how you are passing the props and how you are setting the state and from where the event is getting triggered. And as the application grows, this kind of use cases might grow a lot, and hence having a clear cut idea on what all the communications and how do you do that is very, very important. right? So I hope you understand, and please try to recollect more and you will get a fine grained control on the communications. Okay,